Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. Ukraine War breaking news, second one for the day for 12th of March 2024. I was wondering whether to do this video. Is it worth talking about this? And I think, yeah, definitely it is, because I think there's no coincidence that this sort of activity is taking place just a mere 5 days away from the so-called presidential elections for the dictator Putin. And this is arguably top draw Ukrainian trolling, but in a military way, like in a very serious way. I don't want to take away from the seriousness of this. So the claim at the moment is, and we are going to be referring to a number of places along this northern border. In Belgorod, there are two advances into Belgorod. There are some advances into Kursk region as well. We're going to be looking at this place called Tetkino there, which is a really sizable, I wouldn't even call it a village. It's a town here. This is not one of these tiny little villages that we've seen it has a hospital or, in some of the activities concerning Ukraine. This is, even leading towards Tetkino, you've got just a very large area that is kind of somewhat urbanized. Now, the latest report is that LSR informs that that's the Liberty of Russia Legion, that the liberation of the settlement of 8.2 square kilometers has taken place. So the claim at the moment is the Ukrainians have taken a huge swath of land here, including Tetkino, as a result of the activities of one of the three units operating across the borders into Russia. These are the three units: the Russian Volunteer Corps, the Free Liberty of Russia Legion or Freedom of Russia Legion, and also this new one, which is the Siberia Battalion or Siberia Legion, all operating in different places. And there are claims that there are Russians just running away from their positions around there. They're probably not at all ready for this kind of activity, not expecting there to be actual military incursions across the border. Lo and behold, there is. You've got Russians running away. So let's try and get a handle on what is happening. Look at a couple of threads. PS01 here saying Russia's army is panicking. Reports that they're systematically stopping taxis in the city centre of Belgorod looking for Ukrainian commandos. So alongside this, so there are these operations going across the border in a number of places. We go back to, where is it? Near Shebkino. Where are you? I don't know whether Griver it is happening towards there. I don't think so. But here, Shebekino there, activity there. And in Belgorod, the city itself that's very close to the Ukrainian-Russian border, there are drones hitting their administration buildings being hit. Loud noises coming from there. Russian freedom fighters go around pre-established Russian positions through the forested area. Fighting is quite serious. There's lots of footage to look at. I can't really show you much of it in detail. Drone attacks on Belgorod. There you've got a drone just coming in and hitting a building. Tetkino has been liberated. This is historic videos of the Russian army fleeing on foot, leaving heavy equipment. That's another map of Shebkino just across the border there. And then Paper Tigers, the Paper Tigers VDV entered the chat. There are no losses in Tetkino. We ran away like cowards, firmly and clearly. I mean, there's a lot of trolling going on both sides. Russia confirms officially that it lost Tetkino. Thank you, comrade. Now, I think this is tongue-in-cheek to the Russians claiming the opposite. Information disseminated by the terrorists of the so-called RDK and LSR, as well as a completely mythical Siberian battalion about taking control of the village Tetkino Kursk region, are an absolute lie. But it doesn't appear that it is completely a lie. I mean, there is footage of activity in Tetkino. There's an APC that's been blown up in Tetkino. And the Liberty of Russia Legions, as say, it's fully under the control of the Russian Liberation Forces. But I'd say that there's going to be some huge amounts of propaganda going on here. Let's go back to Null Reports' very industrious thread. Freedom of Russia Legion, so go back to the beginning. The Russian Volunteer Corps and the Siberia Battalion have entered the Kursk and Belgorod regions in Russia. Heavy fighting is reported in the border area. Events will be posted on this thread. And in fact, there's thermal imagery footage of activities going on through the night. Quote, LSR, RDK and Siberian Battalion in Russia operates as independent units. There is probably now a joint operation of these units on the territory of the so-called Russian Federation, according to Andriy Yusov for the Ukrainian intelligence. Addressed to the soldiers of Siberian Battalion, to the Russians of citizens of Russia, quote, it will not be possible to overthrow the criminal dictatorial regime in Russia peacefully. It can only be removed with weapons in hand. Tonight, we begin to fulfill our promise. There are fierce battles on the territory of Russia. And then heavy fighting in Kursk, sounds of explosions and gunfights caught on camera. So this is all kind of geo-confirmed, at least to a level. An air alarm is sounding in Belgorod, in the city of Belgorod. And here are the directions that fighting is reportedly coming from. So Belgorod, the two areas, one up to Shebekino, another one further to the east, and then to Grivoron as well, as I said earlier. So in terms of Belgorod, you've got Grivoron over here where they went across the border previously. And in fact, several times they've attacked across to there. And Shebekino has been attacked before. So the same places are being attacked, and then possibly a new place over here towards Kazinka. And then if we zoom out, you've also got the Kursk region, which is where Tetkino is. So if we now go to the next one. So Freedom Russia Legion shows the destruction of a Russian BTR. So in here, in there is this... Obviously, they're going to put some music over it. There's this BTR there. And then I have a feeling it might get hit with a hand grenade. And then later on... there's a huge explosion on the roads, which looks rather like either mortar fire or artillery fire going on. So anyway, I'll leave you to watch these out, go and look at this footage, go and check no reports as one of the many threads that's updating consistently with what's going on. Russian media and Russian Ministry of Digital Development have made notice that a number of electronic services of the Belgorod region, such as the electronic document management, are unreachable due to cyber attacks. So again, it could be that there's lots of things going on here. You've got drones, cyber attacks happening, 3 different units attacking using combined arms. It looks like they've got some kind of artillery. Russian Volunteer Corps show footage of their units operating at the border with Russia. Well, folks, we are back and we are at the point of attack again. The Kremlin regime's army is dropping its weapons before the fight even begins. This is in reference to them Russians doing a runner. If you've been waiting for the moment to join us, this is it. Stay tuned for more details. Shooting at the Belgorod region can be heard against drones, so multiple drones. And the governor of Kursk, so that region where Tetkino is, Roman Starovoit, confirmed the attacks of Russian insurgents in the area of Tetkino. He says the servicemen of the FSB Border Guard Department and the Ministry of Defense repelled the attack. He also claimed 11 drones were shot down. Lots of activity from Russian air defense in Belgorod and also in Kursk region. Artillery duels and fighting on the ground continues. And then the Russians claim when the Ukrainian armed forces attempted to penetrate into the Belgorod and Kursk regions, over 100 people, 6 tanks, Caesar self-propelled artillery piece, and 20 enemy armored vehicles and a strong point were destroyed, according to Russian FSB. Lots of people taking the mickey out of that. They forgot the Star Trek Enterprise, says no reports. There's no footage of them doing any of that. And it's the kind of behavior that we see when this sort of activity takes place. Explosions in Belgorod region continue. Clashes are ongoing. It looks like vehicles are all going one way, trying to get out of Dodge in that particular village there. Freedom of Legion Russia published more footage of their incursion. So yeah, it was all happening. And then, of course, there were claims that a Su-27 has been shot down in Belgorod, which is as yet unconfirmed. As Yusov says here, we cannot confirm that's happened. But there were claims of that, as I reported earlier, although some of the footage, I think the footage of maybe an explosion there might be an old footage. Nevertheless, the claim still remains. And then in Belgorod, these drones are hitting certain buildings. So this will be making people pretty nervous in the whole area, as we saw a drone hitting the side of that building. Then Russian Volunteer Corps published a video of the Russians running away from action there. Quote, the soldiers of Putin's army are running away with their heels blazing. Behind their backs remain populated areas, equipment, and above all, Russian citizens abandoned and unwanted. and then more footage of Russian infantry running away, which I've already shown you that one in Tetkino. So that's where it is at the moment. This might be well oversold, right? So it could be that far less is really happening than is being claimed, because this is as much a PR battle given the proximity of the elections. But I think this is definitely one to watch for the rest of the day. When you've got possibly 4 areas of incursions into Russian territory, what the cleverness of this is like the rationale from when they previously did this. They're going to be trying to fix Russian forces into these areas. Now, Russian forces are thin on the ground. They are trying their hardest to attack in a number of places along the front line. And like I've said, even though they are succeeding in certain places, they are succeeding, I think, on the back of throwing everything in the kitchen sink at the Ukrainians. And I don't think the Russians can attack enough in all the places they want to. So, for example, if you go to Bakhmut, they are having at least some success in attacking through Ivanivska, but at the same time, they're failing to make any gains around Klishchivka, Andriivka, Kurdyivka, or Zarianivka, and then north of Bakhmut as well. So it appears that they can only afford to and even then they're only making incremental gains, afford to put serious pressure on Bodanivka there. What does that say about the depth of reserves and the depth of forces that the Russians have? Now, they do have lots of forces, I'm not saying that, but do they have enough then to have to divert an awful lot of troops to the northern borders to stop this from happening? Are the Ukrainians saying, look, we can do this now, and we can do it even more so going forward? So what are you going to do about that? It's just a very clever, when the Russians are having some success on the front lines in the east and the south, and you've got a presidential election coming up very shortly, this is an absolutely perfect time for these units to skirt across the border and have these incursions. I think it's absolutely on point here for the Ukrainians to do that, and I'll be very interested to see what the Russian reaction will be. Whether this will draw out airframes to try and drop bombs, but then they're going to be dropping bombs on Russian villages that haven't been evacuated. So how are they going to deal with that? And if they do the Ukrainians have air defense systems put in place just in case that happens? Was the Su-27 shot down this morning as a kind of part of that? What is happening? There's a lot of confusion, as you would expect, but also a lot of potential here. I'm not talking about actually taking ground. I don't think they can realistically take ground and hold on to it. And I don't know that there's any value in doing that. I don't know that the people living there are really going to want the Ukrainians to be there. But in terms of running in, claiming to take a village, shoving a flag down and then running back and then causing diversion and panic amongst the Russians, I think will have its value. Let me know what you think about all of this and how serious it might end up being or not. Take care, speak soon.